This is one of the rare films I think that's usually when we're being documented, we're FGM survivors. It's typically people outside the community that are doing this. And I think what struck me about your film is that you are the protagonist, you're the director, you're opening yourself up to some pretty intimate and very vulnerable conversations. I personally haven't even had this conversation with my own mother. So I want to hear from you sort of what was your goal in making this film, and what were some of the challenges of being both in front of the camera but also behind the camera?
Yeah. Thank you for coming. And oh yeah. My goal. I found about these operations in 2013. I didn't know that they exist. And I was in Burkina Faso presenting my film, The Cat, a film about female genital mutilation. And I was not the protagonist at that time because there's no way I could come and tell people, hey, I went through this practice. I used to say no because for me it was easy that way. So when I found about these operations, actually I was mesmerized, so to say. I was shocked. How, That part is gone. It's gone forever. We can't find it back. And it's a man from France who told me about it. And I remember telling him, I think I'll do a film about it. And it will be called In Search, and it will be about me. But I think it was just a reaction because I didn't know how to react, that there's operations and stuff like that. So when I had a chance to join the Academy of Media and Arts in Cologne, we attended a seminar called Self-Portrait, where other students were telling personal stories. And I thought for me it was a perfect time for me to try and tell my circumcision story there. It wasn't easy. And when I really made up my mind that I need to do this film, I didn't think about using another person because I don't think I could have the courage to follow someone's life. And I already did a film about circumcision. So I didn't see any perfect candidate apart from me. My vision is, since I was young, since I found out that this circumcision, it has no role, and it's not every woman who has to go through it. I said that I will want to work with women. I want to save the girl child or work with the women who have gone through this. But there's no way I could be strong and work with women and listen to their stories without preparing myself or without working on my story. And how was I going to work on my story? I'm a filmmaker. I tell stories through film. Some people write books. So mine was like, this is my medium of communication. Why not make a film about it? Earlier on, I had tried to put down my story in a paper, but I couldn't. Then I could tear the paper or use them to make fire. And there is nothing. So at least I said, I make the film. It wasn't easy, I should say. It's not easy for women to come out and say, I went through this practice. It's a trauma, and no one wants to visit that day because each and every woman who have gone through FGM, like maybe 5 years plus and above, they remember the day clearly. And people are avoiding to talk about it because it really brings bad memories, and who wants to wake up the ghosts in the closet? So it's better you don't talk about it. And there's also fear of being victimized. How are other people thinking about me? How will the world see me? And of course, there's the society pinning you down. Okay, this is our culture. You shouldn't talk about it. Be proud of it and stuff like that. So the fear of being victimized was there. I was scared. How will my family think about it? How will other people think about it? But I came to think that I'm doing this for myself and I'm not trying to please other people. I will not control the audience or the society, what they should think about me, how they should view me. It was about me at that time. I usually say I'm using myself as a mirror so that other women who went through this practice, they can see themselves through me, and I'm trying to empower them to talk about this practice, to talk about what they went through. Of course, I'm trying to give information that there's an operation that women can undergo, but it's not a must. People have to make their own decisions. I'm not trying to push anyone that, hey, you should go through it, it's the best thing. People should make their own decision. I'm here to encourage people to talk about trauma, to talk about FGM, and sharing experience. I might be wrong, but it makes me think that it will bring change. It will maybe it will put a stop to this barbaric act. And maybe we will help save the young child or the girls who are not cut, and the families pressurizing them, and they think that that's the only way to become a complete woman is by going through this cut. So, yeah, I'm spreading the word to the world, and I want the film to reach millions of people, both cut women and who are not cut, and also men, and to encourage people to talk about these traumatic experiences. And I mean, circumcision is not an African problem. It's not a sub-Saharan problem. It's happening in Africa, Asia. It's happening in US. Of course, people don't talk about it, but it's happening. I mean, I'm not trying to change the world. I wish I could do that. But I'm trying to save that one girl child. I'm trying to advocate for vulvas and clitoris because they are roses. They shouldn't be destroyed. And another challenge. Oh, you said challenges. Ooh, that's a whole novel. First and foremost, I knew that talking about my story will be a challenge. It was not easy. And I didn't know that when I'm going to talk to other women, they will turn questions again to me. So, of course, it was a discussion, which was nice. Yeah. But I was not, in the beginning, prepared to share so much of my story because it was emotional. And while filming, when we started, I thought that it will be easy for me to find women who have gone through operations, who are willing to talk about it, about their experience in front of the camera. But that was not the thing. I searched and searched and searched, and I didn't give up, but it was not easy because they are there, but talking about it is not easy. Some have gone through it against the family doesn't know. And so it's better to remain a secret than telling the parents or informing the relatives because there is fear of them being maybe recircumcised or something, or they're trying, for example, some of the people who have gone through the operations who are living in Germany say, okay, my family is here, or my family is back in Somalia or wherever they're coming from. And if they find out that I went through it, then I'm putting my mother in problems. So I'm trying to protect my mother. And my mother knows that I went through it, but she can't share with anyone. So I can't give you an interview. I'm sorry. So I had to respect people's decisions. So it was not easy. And as I said, there's a scene where I was like giving up. I mean, I was giving up in this project. Many times I was like, you know what, let me do something else. I'm done. Maybe I should write a book about it, but I'm done. But I had a strong cinematographer. She was like, you know, I mean, there are these moments. Maybe we should try tomorrow. But also, of course, I give up today. Tomorrow I'll continue filming. And I could wake up every morning and tell myself how strong I am, how it's not only about me because I'm just... I'm representing millions of women, and I shouldn't give up. I should be able to give myself a voice and be strong for other women too. And I repeated this every day. I'm strong, I'm beautiful, I'm an amazing woman, I'm brilliant, and all that just to make myself strong, because I needed to, like, I was talking to myself, like, hey, Beryl, we're going to film tomorrow. We're going to do this. So you will come to the room and you're like, is she talking to herself or somebody? I had nightmares, really nightmares, where I'm fighting with, like, 3 Beryls. It was crazy. It was really crazy. But I managed. So my mantra sort of worked every day. And there were different challenges, but somehow we overcame them. I had a strong team to help me go through that.
No, it was it's your courage and telling the story and breaking the culture of silence on an issue that's really taboo and it's hard. I can speak for my own community. You know, we had a retreat of survivors of FGM, and out of about 25, 3 could be public just because of the backlash. You brought up the fact that FGM is not just a sub-Saharan African issue. This is something that's happening all over the world. You know, in where I'm from, originally from in India, but also right here in the United States. We have about 500,000 girls, according to the Centers for Disease Control, that are either at risk or who have been cut like me. And this is transcending, you know, race, religion, geography. I'm Muslim, you're Christian. There's also white evangelical girls in Kentucky, in Minnesota. So this is really, I mean, I think at its core about controlling female sexuality. And there was, and your film really powerfully conveys that it's not just, it's women that are doing it to other women as well, but there's sort of overarching structural, in the case of in Kenya in the church, sort of, and your mother's generation talking about the structural imperatives that sort of drive this. So Mike, one thing that's interesting, it's timely your film coming here in the United States right now, because we had the first federal case against FGM in Detroit. So we had a federal ban, and it was recently overturned in Michigan. And so, as you know, you're coming from Germany, you know, roots in Kenya. What message does it send if the United States does not have a federal ban criminalizing FGM? What message does it send to you and to survivors around the world?
That the rest of the world should copy that and spread it. For me, it's like spreading violence against women. It's like, let's do this, let's do that. Clitoris doesn't matter, or let's suppress women. That's the message I'm getting. It's not like empowering women or let's protect the women. It's that's the message the US is sending to the rest part of the world, the third world countries, and whatever. That's the message I'm getting, and it's really terrible. But here I can request you to be the advocate. You know, together we can fight this. We can. Like I said before, we can help save the labias and the clitoris of other girls. Be a woman's keeper. Yeah.
So I'm going to have some time for questions. So if anyone has any questions, feel free.
What men say in groups about women who are not, who have not had this done to them, what elderly people believe, what are the commonly held beliefs about women's bodies that lead people to find this practice acceptable, even though every year certainly some women die, others are badly injured by it. Thank you.
I already did a film about female genital mutilation. And this film was about my story. It was about finding other women who have heard about these operations and whether they have gone through it. So I didn't want to make it so big because it was just a tiny story about Beryls. It was basically Beryl's story. So this other stuff, I didn't see room for them at that time.
Just a quick question. First, thank you, Asante. That was great.
Oh,
I said thank
great.
you for that. That was great. You said that at some point, I think a few months or a few weeks after you went through your circumcision, someone came and talked about it in school. Was this like in a class? Was it a sexual education lesson? Like, how did the conversation end up happening? And if I understood it correctly, was it in school, like when you're still in primary or secondary, or was it like college level when that conversation happened?
That was, if I'm not, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was around January, February 1995 or something of the sort. I can't really remember. I wasn't still in primary school. And I know that there was a white man. I don't know wherever he came from, whether he was Britain or whatever, America, but he was white. And he was in a company of two black men, and I know the men. And because they had, I think they were in the university or they had finished their secondary education, I don't know, because they were translating. The man was speaking in English and they were translating in Swahili so that, and Kikuri, my mother tongue, so that every student can understand. And we didn't have sex education class at that time, and I don't think there is any sexual education class in Kenya anymore. He just came, they were just talking about FGM in general from one school to the other, and that's when I got the information. But for me, having gone through it, I knew already that I think I have made a mistake. Your body knows. Come on, I mean, your genitals is chopped away with a razor blade. You know that all that pain, and you're like, it was not worth it. Why did I do it? The bleeding, the pain, and you feel like, why did I do it, you know? And then the general information, it's not all women who are cut in the world. It's not done actually, it's done by a minority people. So those were new information that I got. And I grew up knowing that every woman has to go through FGM. It's like every woman has to give birth. At that time, people don't talk about infertility. You know that it's like every woman has to give birth, every woman has to be cut. So you grow up knowing that. So you don't know anything or dangers about FGM, sex, and what have you. So for me, all this was new, and it was new information. And I think it added to my fear that I had already made a terrible mistake. Of course, when I went there and I was cut, I knew that I made a terrible mistake. But then the men were confirming, you know. It was just a confirmation that, okay, you did it. I mean, they didn't say it like that, but that's what I got. There's a hand up there. Okay.
Thank you so much for your honesty in this film. And I wanted to ask you, like, as to whatever extent you feel comfortable sharing about this, has your health situation improved after the operation? For instance, your cramps and things like that?
I don't know which other things you mean, but my cramps are better. There's this lady, is that hand? And the other one.
What either of you
Try this mic. Know about how I tried this mic. Okay.
there you go.
Yeah.
What either of you may have learned about how medical insurance companies are treating these reconstructive surgeries. I know someone who has experienced FGM, and I know that she does not know that such surgeries exist. And part of me is excited to want to be able to tell her. But I'm also afraid of discouraging her that if it's something that financially would be something that would never be, she could never avail herself of. So, I mean, is it considered plastic surgery or reconstructive surgery in the sense that medical insurance would not cover it because it's seen as not medically necessary? Do you have any knowledge on that?
I don't know much about German, U.S. medical insurance. And I don't know how much they pay for the operations, because the doctor comes from LA, and the hospital or the organization is called Clitoraid. So she can be in touch with the doctor and find out. And that's really what she's doing is not a major operation. And it's like takes, depending with the type of circumcision, it's not really a major operation. But in Germany, it costs maybe about 5,000 euros plus, depending with the type of circumcision, but the health organization is taking care of that. Earlier on, when I was like, I wrote an email to the health organization. At that time, I was in private. And then they said, I got a reply that, and I had not really made up my mind that I'm doing the operation. I just wanted to know how they're covering. They said that they don't treat old disease. And that angered some people. So, but in Kenya, because, I mean, come on, we can't afford to raise 5,000 euros for the operation. So in Kenya, at that time, we were paying about 100 euros, and which, in my opinion, it's a lot for some women. Not all women will be able to raise 100 euros for such operation. Because you have to consider that these people live, majority of them live like below $1 a day. So it's not possible to raise 100 euros for the operation, but it's possible. I don't know where she is, whether she's in Africa or Germany or US. So she's in US. So let her keep in touch with the clitorid, and then she will find about more. There's another, and then after that, there's another lady behind her.
Hi, Beryl.
Hi.
Asante sana.
Karibu.
Mtoto wetu. That was
Oh.
awesome. Yes. Just to follow up on what the lady asked you. So in Kenya, I'm from Kenya.
I can't tell.
But luckily, I'm from the eastern part. This is not a norm for us. But I grew up with a lot of people who've had FGM done. Even here in America, we have a large Kenyan population whereby they take their kids home in the summer to have FGM. And most of them, I know in Kurias, you guys do it mostly like the Maasais and the Samburus, whereby you cut a lot of the parts, but some tribes, I know they just do the level 1 that you thought that you had. So this is my question. There's been a lot of work being done in Kenya about FGM and how to stop it. So now this organization, Clitorid, comes to Kenya and says that they're going to help women and do this with reconstructive surgeries. It's not known. Actually, not very many people know about that in Kenya. So are there organizations that are trying to educate these tribes and let them know, and let the girls who have been traumatized like you know that this is possible? And we know how expensive it is in Kenya for any medical. Any medical is very expensive down there. Are there organizations that are helping these young girls who have been traumatized by this be able to afford this reconstructive surgery?
Well, I think, no, not that I think. There's, how is it called? There's an organization called Pink Plus Restoration. It's the one that looked for Bowers. It's the one that is organizing flying Bowers in Kenya to do the operations. And it was started by the Dr. Arden. And then he told me, it was 2017 was the very first time that those operations were happening in Kenya. And he told me that he used his own money because he didn't have any funds to do that. I really don't know how they found the ladies. No, some of the ladies I talked to said that they just, by accident, Googling something, then the clitorid from LA popped up, and then they read about the operation, that they contacted the doctor, and the doctor saw that there was a need in Kenya, and then I think also Dr. Arden found her somehow through online or somehow, and then he invited her. But the thing is, no, it's not common, it's not known, and I'm not in Kenya right now, and I don't know really how. There's no organization that's taking care of it. And I'm still organizing that I should show the film to the organizations that are fighting against FGM. That's the only way they will find this, the information. And there's no, as you know, there's no counseling center. I know that women who have gone through this will, I mean, the practice will need help. They need they need somebody to talk to. But yeah, from a young age, you're suppressed. You're not allowed to talk about it. You have to find a way somehow in life to deal with it. But the thing is, I don't think even organizations are aware that these operations happen or they're happening in Kenya. At that time when it was happening, it was a big thing because there were TV stations, there were international TV stations, there were Kenyan newspapers, radios, local TV. But in Kenya, how many people in the village have TV sets? Very few. And how many people read newspapers? I mean, let's say maybe the people who live in centers and cities found about these operations. Maybe they could tell their relatives by word of mouth, but I don't think the information reaches the people in the villages. So that's why I'm saying I have to organize on how to show the film to NGOs and share the message. Otherwise, yeah.
And there's an organization also called Girl Generation, and they do social media campaigns. So this might be an interesting collaboration.
Yeah.
So we have about half a minute, I think, left. I'm going to end. Today's Father's Day, so I wanted to ask, what role can men and fathers and brothers and just men play in helping to break the culture of silence on FGM?
I think men should also join the campaign. They should talk about it instead of. There should be a general education for both men, women, and girls. It should not only target girls only. Parents have to be educated because, of course, men. I'm not saying men who are inside here, but I'm saying men from these societies where FGM is being practiced are into denial. They will say they don't authorize that or they don't organize it, but I didn't get money from my father, but they're the ones who give money for circumcision. They're the ones who organize the parties. So they play a big role in this. But they should not say it's a woman problem, it's a woman who does the cutting. They are the ones who authorize it. So they should also join the campaigns. But I have seen that sometimes when men try to join the campaign, they're shut down, and breaking men's ego. Right. I think they should just keep trying and be strong to break the ego and say, hey, we should stop this barbaric act and we should stop cutting because we should love our women the way they are, the way they were created. They are beautiful. And then we will make, I think, a world a better place for both of us to live in.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Beryl.